My name is Jeff Ware, along with Denise Morelli. We chair the nonprofit committee here at the Meadowlands Chamber, and we're excited to partner with the Small Business Council once again for a great event. We've got their chair people here in the back, Frank Pergola, and on our panel, Dan Meredith. So also Dan is a late addition to the panel this morning. Actually, I consider it an upgrade to the panel because Dan was actually the inspiration for this event. You know, just hearing of all the stuff that Dan does through his agency with local nonprofits, and hearing how, you know, it made him feel good about himself and his business, but also helped his business attract new customers, was really the inspiration for this discussion this morning about how nonprofits and small businesses can partner for mutual benefit, you know, to help each side grow their sponsors, their supporters, and their customers. So we also have a sponsor this morning for this event, the Rutherford Swim Association, and we have a representative from them to come up and tell us a few words about their organization.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Lazara. I represent the Rutherford Swim Association. We were established in 2019. Our goal was to build a aquatics program in the community of Rutherford. I don't know if anybody was familiar with the Aquatic Center in Rutherford. It was going to be demolished and turned into a cafeteria. My organization came together and we built a program that would cater to young children, special needs children, adults, a plethora of a community. And as a nonprofit, we realized that our stance in the community is not just about aquatics, it's about helping others, you know, and building character. And we've had an opportunity to coach children, guide children, and teach water safety confidence, especially after this year with COVID, socialization, all that stuff. We really took an opportunity to cater to special needs. And we realized that standing here, being able to build a community amongst ourselves, we're here to help too. We're not just focused on aquatics, we're focused on helping out others. This month in particularly, we're running a fundraiser for both the Wounded Warriors Project and the Breast Cancer Awareness Fund for the Betty Tetraselli Center for Breast Cancer. So being able to have a community below us that's willing to contribute and help to all these other foundations out there, we're really utilizing our platform not just to help the Aquatic Center that was suffering and has come back to life now, but also helping others in the community. I found this panel and this seminar for today, and I thought that this is a great opportunity to come out and speak and talk a little bit about what we do. You know, a lot of what we do is aquatics based, but we really are a helping hand in the community. And you know, we hope to continue this partnership here, and we're really excited to work with other nonprofits and for-profit organizations here while we're here. So thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here.
So I just want to introduce the rest of the panel. We met Dan, who is Dan Meredith from the Dan Meredith Agency, an all-state insurance agent. Next we have Jessica Marek, who is the founder and owner of Red Root Marketing. Nina Bachrach is the CEO of Bergen Volunteers. We have Joanne Lopez, who is the branch manager at Blue Foundry Bank. And finally, Nancy Welbrock, who is, you got a long title, Nancy, I'm gonna read this one. The Director of Individual Foundation Giving and Communications at Alzheimer's New Jersey. All right, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves as we go along this afternoon or this morning and tell a little bit more about themselves and their organizations and get right into the program at this point. We really have three goals this morning. We want to talk about three different things. First, how do you identify nonprofit businesses, nonprofit organization, or businesses that would be a good fit for a partnership? And once you've identified them, then how do you approach them and how do you sell a partnership to the other side? And then finally, once you have found the ideal partner, agreed that you guys would be a benefit to work together, then how do we create the event, the partnership, and how do we market it and promote it so it's a success? And so the partnership then continues beyond just a single event and into a lifelong benefit for your business and for the community. So one of the things that we talk about a lot when dealing with a nonprofit is, what are your values? And you need to find a small business that fits those values, that shares those values. And I know that's a tough question, even as a director of a nonprofit myself, trying to figure out what the values, and I thought, well, that's probably even a trickier question for a small business. And how do you define the values of a small business? So I want to start off with Jessica, because I think that's the underpinning of all of this. So how does a business define their values so they know what nonprofit to look for with shared values?
So, thank you, Jeff. Can you hear me okay? It's okay. So, our approach, and I think, and I'm on a little bit of a global mission to teach small businesses and nonprofits about social media marketing. Really, it goes right to the crux of how we think you should be doing your social media marketing. You should always curate your audience, thinking very, very deeply about, who do you want to be aligned with? Who is on your value chain? And I think it's a great place to start when you're doing social media marketing, it's a lot about the content that you're creating. But we kind of turn it on its head, and before we even start any content for ourselves or for our clients, we really think deeply about that audience. And we think about, how do you go about figuring out who that audience is? And that's just in general, but very specifically to this end, how do you also figure out, well, who do I want to be aligned with? What are those nonprofits and what are those other small businesses? And I think some of the things that you can do is first of all, you think about, what do you care about in your own life? Because I think that's important. So you think about yourself, but obviously if you're part of a small business that's has several members, or maybe you're not the owner, you want to think about, what are those values in your community? Who are those people that you want to be aligned with? And one of those things is, who are the other people in your community doing good things? Who has already maybe curated an audience that you also want to get in front of? So it takes a little bit of research, and I think this is for all social media marketing anyways, but you want to really spend some time either Googling or on the actual platform. So we'll take Instagram as an example. You really want to spend time on Instagram and looking at maybe at hashtags. Maybe you're looking at geographical hashtags, so already finding people in your community, so nonprofit NJ or Rutherford NJ, and looking and seeing who has some of those hashtags and who's using those hashtags. And then it's really just about looking at their feeds, and if they're doing a good job conveying what they do, you can look at maybe their last 3 to 6 posts and see what is the energy coming from them, what is the passion, and does that resonate with you? You can also look at some of the nonprofits that have gotten on your radar just by doing good social media or doing events in the community, and who are they following? Who do they care about? So I know that's a little bit, it's not exactly answering your question, because your question really is, well, how do you know what your own values are and what are those things? I mean, I think it's good to do an exercise, and I had kind of come up with a little bit of a worksheet that I can work on a little more and maybe get it to you, but really just doing a writing exercise, really thinking and sitting for 10, 15 minutes, writing down keywords. What are you about? Or looking at your website, looking at your own website. What comes through? What do you care about in your community? I mean, if you look at Dan's social media, he talks a lot about, communication, transparency, community. You can see what he aligns with just by looking at his Instagram feed. And so if he were to spend 10 minutes just jotting down, what is the type of business he's trying to lead, and who does he want to be connected with, and who are the others in the community? If you really just jot down some of those keywords, you're going to see something come through. There's going to be a pattern. And then that's what you look for. You look for others in your community doing that. And also just networking. When you go to networking events, asking people, talking to people, what's your nonprofit about? What's your business about? And make sure you follow them when you go home or when you get to work. follow them on their accounts, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and look at the last couple of their posts and see, are they really coming through with this message? So
I can add to that from
Yeah,
a nonprofit
absolutely.
perspective. So as a volunteer center and a community hub, that's one of the things that we do is help community small businesses. We match resources with needs and needs with resources. So if a small business wants to do something in the community but they're not really sure, what should we do? We know we want to help, but we don't really know where our values align. That's what we do. We can come in and we can help you do that. And one of the things I think that's really important is the collaborative piece. You know, it's listen first and say, you know, what is it that you're interested in? What strikes you as, you know, there's so many things happening in the community that you can always help with, right? So where can we help you align what you're able to help with, where you want to help with, and then kind of connect you with other, you know, with other parts of the community where the help is needed. Not all nonprofits are like that, because most nonprofits are kind of focused around one singular cause. But Bergen Volunteers collaborates with, I think we have about 90 nonprofits that we work with. So if a business comes to us and says, we want to do something but we don't know what to do, we can help you. And I think that's one of the really big, important things about small business and nonprofit collaboration is the relationship collaborative piece, where you can't just keep it all internally within yourself, right? You have to say, well, you might not be able to fit with us or some of the things that we're doing, but we can reach out to other people and help you connect in that way. So I think that's a way that you can kind of help guide a nonprofit. I'm sorry, a small business where you're kind of interested, but you don't know what to do, and then we can help you do that.
So I think what I hear you saying is then, you know, the small business doesn't have that firm grasp on what their values are. Maybe they go to step 2 and approach a nonprofit and try to help them figure it out. Dan, since Jessica mentioned your name, I feel like I should give you 30 seconds to respond like in a debate. But what are your values at the agency, and how did you figure that out?
Well, first, I was actually going to give an answer to agree with Nina on, we did the opposite because I didn't know of a Bergen Volunteers at the time. And had I known that this is how we were going to end up as a business, I would have gone somewhere where they can align me in the right place first. And that's a pretty good thing to have, that I can tell you would take years off of the amount of time that I've kind of coagulated what it is that I do. And I'm sorry, now what was the actual question?
The question was, what are your values and how did you figure them out?
So me and my wife Kristen, we own an Allstate agency. Everyone's very aware of who Allstate is. Allstate's a very large corporate company, but we're a very small local agency. And we started off trying to do Google ads. We were doing advertising that was basically just advertising the good hands nationally. It wasn't helping us on a local level. So our values, though, was to help anyway. So we were naturally helping smaller causes, but at the time we were just helping. We hadn't reached a point yet where we ended up with some anchor organizations that we help every year annually. And pretty much I would say, if you're a business and you want to do it the way that we've done it, is you go out, you help what you really truthfully believe in, you give it your heart all the way through. If you connect with a nonprofit, you say you're going to support them, you have to take it on as if it's part of your business, and you have to support the nonprofit. So that is something that we did naturally because we wanted to help. So what that did is that stemmed relationships with the nonprofits themselves, and they would come back to us and see if we wanted to go further, see if we wanted to become part of their committees, and we have. So what to beware of is don't throw your money everywhere, because there are a lot of charities that were not on a local level that kind of catch that on the radar, and they start throwing themselves at you, and you feel that the thing to do is to just start helping everybody. You can't do that But what I can tell you, in my heart, where are our values is I've found that we've reached a point now where we didn't mean to not advertise as much as we did. We didn't mean to be a charitable brand. It kind of happened organically for us, but I can go to sleep at night knowing that I heartfeltly really love what we do, and at the same time, it advertises for us. Now,
Dan,
that's-
how many
yeah.
nonprofits do you work with or do you help?
So our long-lasting relationships started with the Center for Hope and Safety, which is Bergen County's domestic violence shelter. It started with being invited to come to the Walk Together Against Domestic Violence. I went there with a table and went there backed by the Purple Purse and the Allstate Foundation. I had no idea what I was doing, although I thought it was going to be a great thing to help. That relationship now has become our anchor. I've gotten to know the people in the organization, and I've heard the stories, and you learn so much more about what's going on around you. When you really start to get deep into it, which I'm not going to, you start to want to help. You feel compelled to do it. But to answer your question, the Center for Hope and Safety, Relay for Life, the American Cancer Society, we help them very big. The Healing Hearts of Rutherford. Of course, we are helping the Rutherford Community Food Pantry as much as we can. We're waiting for an approval on that as we speak. But we've got the Walk Together Against Domestic Violence coming up October 30th. And if you wanted to learn more about the domestic violence problem happening all around you right now, okay, and I mean out that door. So
Dan, if I could bring Nancy in to come from the other side of it, so how have you, in approaching small businesses, how have you helped them figure out if their values align with your organization?
Well, I think for us, and I think for any nonprofit, I think the first thing is really trying to understand who you are as a nonprofit. What your mission is, what your brand is, who your audience is, what it is you can offer in terms of benefits to a business, in terms of a relationship. Alzheimer's New Jersey is, our mission is to help New Jersey families affected by Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. We are New Jersey focused. We are, we're not the Alzheimer's Association, although many people get confused thinking that we are part of that organization, but we have a New Jersey focus. So automatically that sort of gives a focus to our potential group of businesses that we might work with. If you're a national organization, if you're looking for some national type of perspective, we're not the right organization. That's number one. Number two, I do think it's really important for a nonprofit to really understand what their story is, what they have to say to people out there in the community. What is your mission? What is your impact? I mean, how do you help your neighbor in need? I mean, we do education, we do family support groups, we help connect people to clinical trials. We have a helpline and that kind of thing. But letting people know, what your impact is, because they want to be part of that. And I think that sometimes can be a challenge for organizations or nonprofits and making that clear. And then I think in terms, it's also in terms of who your audience is. Because we are although we're not a healthcare organization, we sort of provide and support healthcare needs. We know automatically that our market, in terms of our potential audience, in terms of businesses, is going to be more healthcare related. We do some work with pharmaceuticals. We sort of do a lot of work with the senior living, facilities that are out there, retirement villages, that kind of thing. We do certainly some work in terms of other businesses that have more general types of goals. But usually there's some sort of healthcare related kind of message to that. I also think it's understanding who our audience is in terms of who we serve. Although we support initiatives to find a cure for Alzheimer's, that is a long way off. But we focus a lot on who the caregiver and helping families get through the day. What do you do when you're living with someone who has dementia, Alzheimer's, is losing their memory, may in fact not be able to take care of the basic needs, their own basic needs. Our goal is to sort of help them get through the day and have the best days possible until a cure can be found. And we do that again through our educational support groups and that kind of thing. But that says then who are the people, who's our potential audience that a business might be exposed to? It's caregivers. It may be family members. It may be people of all ages, because you may not have dementia, but guess what? Your grandparent may have dementia. Your sister may have dementia. A parent may have dementia. So the impact of that disease goes way beyond the initial person who may have the disease themselves. But that's who we service. That's who looks at our website. That's going to read our newsletter. And so that if we're going to work with an organization, that's who you're going to be speaking to.
So to just,
I'm gonna add something.
yeah, well, I want to wrap up this segment on identifying things. I didn't want to give Joanne a chance to speak, so just, Joanne, Nancy makes a great point about finding that overlap in audience for the nonprofit, but customers for you. I mean, I don't want to sound too crass, but how did you have experience with finding nonprofits that had a natural overlap with your branding as a bank?
So, good morning, everyone. Well, first and foremost, I'm so thrilled to be surrounded by you wonderful folks. I mean, you do such amazing work. And as a bank, many people think, we're just about sales and, numbers and revenue, but that is definitely not the case. We've had over 500 nonprofits that we currently help. Like Nancy, in every capacity. Besides just the monetary donations, we really do try to be involved, whether it's helping at an event, setting up, whatever it may take. We really try to stay involved, keep the lines of communication open, and really try to help each other. I think that's really important. It's really about being connected to the community and just staying in touch with each other and helping each other. That's really how we're going to really build the community and each other, and just keep the support going.
For instance, as I was introduced to Joanne because her particular branch on Union Avenue in Rutherford was a sponsor for our Relay for Life of Rutherford last year as well. So you explained about finding what are the values of the charity, and I was trying to explain that before, and I really couldn't get it out. She explained it perfectly, and then to add to that, what Joanne was saying, how they help a lot. There's relationships that are made when you don't even realize they're coming, and if you're involved in one organization's charity, and somebody else comes in as a sponsor, next thing you know, your network is growing with people who want to help charities. So just wanted to put that in there too.
Nina, what did you want to add?
Yeah, I have a funny story actually about
Great.
building relationships. Well, it's not funny at all. I know I said it. It's interesting. I got a call a couple of years ago. Well, I might have even been like 5 or 6 years ago already, about a bank that was new in town, and they were looking to build relationships. And I was right on it, right? Like, I sent in my proposal and I met with them, and what I did wrong was I was pitching them, right? You're going to sponsor us. And what they were looking for was to build a collaboration, to build a relationship. They wanted to be part of the organization. And at the time where I was, I didn't have that ability to do that. But as soon as I came, this was years ago, and as soon I kept the connection, right? And as soon as I came to Bergen Volunteers, I called them and I said, remember how you wanted to have like a real partnership? This is what you were looking for, where we can actually do things together, where you're not just sending us your sponsorship check, right? You're building a connection, you're building a relationship, and you're building community together. So I wanted to add that because of what you were saying about, how you can offer something into the community. And the other thing is, I don't know how many businesses versus nonprofits are in here. Can you just raise your hand if you're with a business versus? Okay, so it's all businesses. So almost all. So on the business side, I would say if you're looking for, how do I know where I want to be involved, is to look for genuineness. Look for look for truth, because
Authenticity.
yeah, authenticity. I was on the other side at one point, and we were doing grants, and somebody came in and said, yeah, we serve, it was like 20,000 people or something like that. It was a senior center in a very small town. There weren't even 20,000 people in that town, you know, and I knew there's no way, you know. I was nice enough to say, well, how are you measuring that, you know, and she told me, and it was like anytime somebody goes into a room, they click it, you know, so it was like it could be one person that day, but if they went to 10 places, they were counting it as 10, you know, so I said, you should probably align a little more genuinely with what you're actually doing. So looking for genuine authenticity is really where I think you could focus.
So Nancy, building on that, so when you're talking to a potential small business or, you know, larger business partner, how do you balance telling them about your mission and telling them what they could possibly get out of it?
Well, you know, obviously it's all about dialogue and communication. You know, I think before we have any conversation with any potential business, we start to do our, I mean, as was said by Jessica, we do our research. We try to understand what a company has been doing, you know, maybe what their charitable giving has been, you know, what their activities have been, what their business is about. By the time we sit down with somebody, we're going to know what you're about, okay? And hopefully you've done your homework, you know what we're about, and that's why we're sitting there and talking together. You know, most of the ways we work with businesses is through our sponsorships. I mean, we do a walk to fight Alzheimer's, we have a gala, we have program sponsorships where you can sponsor a webinar and that kind of thing. So that, you know, we sort of have an idea of what the benefits are, what we can offer you. And within that, certainly there's a little bit of flexibility. So we try to understand what it is that the business is trying to accomplish. So I think there's communication, there's dialogue, and there is some flexibility within the parameters that we have set up to try to work together and come up with a mutually beneficial relationship that is going to work for both sides of the both organizations. You know, I know for us, what is a strong, you know, it's important to us. One of our values is education. In terms of letting people know the impact of Alzheimer's disease on families. As I said, you know, the incidence of Alzheimer's occurs with people most often 65 years plus. However, the impact of that person in a family who may have dementia on the rest of the family can be tremendous. And what we find when we go into a corporation, and this has happened to me, I was at a major corporation doing, with one of our staff people, we did a lunch and learn, and then we had a little table in the cafeteria, and they were doing some auctions, all sorts of fun things for people to help raise money for us. What was amazing to me is how many employees came up to me and very quietly said to me, you know, my brother has this disease, early diagnosis, he goes, or, you know, my mother had this, and now somebody else in my family has it. He said, well, I don't really talk about it, but the impact of the disease is far greater than the number of people who have the disease. But a lot of people are quiet about it. So it's very important for us to try to get the word out there about what we can, you know, what the support services are that are out there, how important it is to understand the disease so that you can in fact respond to it. So education for us is an important value. So that's always, you know, we look at that and say, how can we incorporate that into whatever the relationship is that we're trying to develop.
So then, I mean, whatever you were going to say, plus, I mean, how important it is to you as a small business owner to align with nonprofits that you have some sort of personal connection with?
Well, that's almost exactly what I was going to talk about, is that's the natural part. The unnatural part, if we're talking about educating and learning, this would be for any business thinking to go into trying to do something like this, is if you, what we didn't realize at first when we got involved is how much the corporate side that we belong to would help us do what we're doing. And we didn't understand it at first. And now it's become a major part of what we do. And if you are a company like mine and you have a contract with a corporate company, chances are they've already got a foundation where they'll help you help other people. So we found out as much as we could about that. We tested the waters in the early days, and through time, now it's become practice 4 or 5 times a year, we're using Allstate Foundation money to help the charities that we're helping 10 times more than I do on my normal organic approach, which we still do. So, because we did learn the values of the charity itself, and the ones that we really want to help, we've kind of fallen in with and you become really good friends with, you stick with organic. And then what we do, if anybody's in my situation, is each year we pick a new charity that we know about and we've vetted and we've been keeping an eye on. We start small with Allstate Foundation money, and then if they want to keep us and we fall in with them and they become a cause that we really want to help, Allstate Foundation sees that. You show them that in social media, they want that. So the corporate side wants the world to see what they're helping. And each corporate foundation or company is going to have a different type of charity or people that they want to help. And for instance, in ours, which is why we've been able to do so good with the Center for Open Safety, is domestic violence is their main approach. Making people affected by domestic violence understand how to financially work their way out of it without just leaving the house. Now, that's help you've got from both sides, and when you make that connection between your company and that, you've got your heart, you've got your company, and you've got the charity, and that's a perfect mix, and that's what we're still getting better at.
So Joanne, you want to talk a little bit about that, and then
Yeah.
also, you had talked about your employees before and getting them involved. So, how important is it, to ask your employees what causes are important to them, and then what are the ways they can get involved, that you have gotten involved with charities other than just making cash donation?
Absolutely. So thank you, Dan, for bringing that up, and Nancy with the education piece, because so with partnerships, again, building partnerships is so key, and really keeping the communication open. So for example, most recently we had a couple of customers that came in and they were really victims of financial fraud, things like that. Unfortunately, we were able to stop the situation from escalating. Now that gave us an idea of educating seniors within the community, and so we've actually set up a couple of events in October at the library. So we're going to be educating what to look for identity theft, for anything that doesn't seem right, things like that. So that's so important. With my employees, they also believe in community, and one of the things that we really truly believe in is our character. We really do try to make sure that we're doing things, again, at the end of the day, we go to bed at night, we feel good, we did something great to help someone. My employees they are involved in the community. I believe this weekend, Dan, there's the Multicultural Festival, which one of my employees, she is a part of, so she's gonna be there. But again, I think just being there, being able to help the community, build relationships, network, because you just never know who's out there that may need our help. And if we don't ask, we're just never going to know.
I think it's really important for employees to know that they have the support of their corporation or their small business behind them. What we're seeing a lot of is businesses will give employees, say, like 40 hours, where you can go out and volunteer. So then they'll come to us and we can give them a menu. You can do a corporate day of service, you can go plant something, or you can do a cleanup, or you can volunteer with one of our own programs. But sometimes the employee won't have the ideation to do it. They'll know it's kind of there, but unless the business is really giving them the green light, like a strong green light, they're not going to go ahead and do it. And I think the more that a small business kind of incentivizes their staff to do more in the community, the more they will.
I think sometimes, and I was going to use my husband as an example, they don't make, so please shoot me now, but I don't know that they're always aware of what the opportunities
Right.
are that are out there. My husband worked for a major New Jersey firm for many, many years, and they would have their employee volunteer day. And he always found that experience to be so interesting because he was exposed to an organization on the work that was being done out there that he, in the normal course of events, 5 days a week, going to work, he's not going to see. You know, he got his T-shirt and sort of really
Right.
liked all of that kind of thing. So again, I think that maybe some employees, you know, people need to be educated a little bit to what the opportunities are out there. You know, many years ago as well, I went to some presentation and they were doing something about happiness. And apparently, they were trying to measure the ways that people are happy. And I think one of the ways they determined was when employees have the opportunity to go out and do good, and the company can help you do that moves the happiness factor up. And so that's very important to them.
Well, I mean, happy employers are more productive employees. So,
Exactly.
you know.
Yes.
Jessica, to bring you back in, how would you, any advice for either side on letting their audience that already exists know that they're open to something like this?
Yeah, so, well, I think it's about documenting. So you can go out into the community and do a lot of good, but if you're not talking about it, either, you know, and that can be on your website or it can be on your social media, which is a great, you know, platform for that, then, you know, that's a huge missed opportunity. So what you're doing is you're creating content for yourself, but you're also creating content for that nonprofit, that brand awareness. So it's really important to document that. It's important to make sure you're following those accounts. So let's say you have already found a partner or several partners that you decide to raise funds for or be involved with. You want to make sure you're taking those photos, you're doing videos, you're tagging them, you're talking about them, you're using the hashtags that they use. That's going to expand. First of all, it's going to give people a glimpse into who you are as an entrepreneur or a business. And people are going to applaud that and they're going to want to support you in that. Those are very engaging posts when you put a post, and people want to, I think, see those types of things, and they'll hopefully follow. If you tag the nonprofit, they'll follow the nonprofit and get involved in their own way. That audience is following you. But it's also, so you're creating content for yourself, but you're also creating content for that nonprofit, and they can share it to their stories and they can put it up. And it's really important to document those moments. Because again, it's showing who you are, and I think when you go onto a new feed and you're vetting someone that you want to work with, I think people are looking for stories, and I think even more so today, it's really important to people when they're looking to work with a business, you know, what are they about? And that shows, you know, it's part of what your mission is as a small business. You know, you want to always have a variety of content that you're putting up, and one of those things can be, you know, I guess it's replaced, you know, instead of putting up a photo of your meal, you put up a photo of, you know, what's an idea of what do you care about? Because that shows the richness and the depth of what you do. It's not just about, okay, what services do you offer? Don't forget to post about that, because that's important too. But what else is going on, and what is that, how do you differentiate yourself? Because not everyone's doing that. Not everyone, or they're doing it, but they're not showing it. And so you're going to really differentiate yourself as a small business by making sure you put that up.
Also, because that is so true, it also comes down to when you're looking to get help with marketing, which I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I'm no professional with. Allstate might be, but if I want to separate myself from the flock, I can't look for a person who caters to national marketing and national. I can't do that. I need to focus on a person who's looking for organic, local marketing. And that's pretty much what you're talking about. And it makes that difference between the corporate side and who you are, if you're in my situation. But if you're just a regular small business and you're your own complete, you started the business, you're not connected to a corporate side, well, that also means you really don't have too big of a national range probably, and being in a more organic social media atmosphere, I can tell you from experience with a lot of money I've spent on advertising that went nowhere because you're competing with too large of an area. You need to bring it home. If you're going to help people that are close to where you are locally, you need to cater to a radius that's not that far out of them. Because chances are you probably can't do business out of that range anyway. So before you spend thousands of dollars on some big media plan, where only 1% of it is going to be something that's valuable to you as a small local business. That would be the best advice I can give to anybody in this room who's looking on the marketing side.
And,
no, go
I was
ahead.
going to add, that it's not always about paying a nonprofit to do something. You can get involved in so many other ways that might not necessarily cost anything. Like, for example, we just did a school supply drive. We're gathering supplies for Afghan refugees. You could be a drop-off point. You can get a lot of bang for your buck without a lot of bucks. If you really want to be involved, you can do it in a way that might not necessarily be. Nonprofits are always looking for money, right? That's one thing that we need in order to keep ourselves sustained. But if you were looking to just kind of get your feet wet and you're thinking, how do I do it without, I don't have a big, I'm going to put my money into the marketing. I don't have a big, nonprofit charitable budget. You can get involved in other ways.
I was going to say, a lot of ways people will get involved really is through volunteering.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have our,
I'm not doing my job very well.
If you went straight
Alzheimer's
to
New Jersey, people first
Yeah.
come and get involved. First of all, people come to us because they have a connection to the disease. That's really what drives us, number one. But then number two, they may take part in one of our walk committees or our gala committees, or maybe they've decided they want to walk, to form a team and walk and do some fundraising. That's oftentimes how that first connection starts. And then they're having a really good experience, and they start to believe more so in the organization. And then they may call me up and say, gee, Nancy, I work for such and such organization. Can we maybe there's a way we can work together in a larger way. So a lot of times it's through the people.
Absolutely, and especially with for us, because we have so many different types of programming where you can get involved in a million different ways, right? You can get involved with our own community programs that I was talking about before that we run, where you can volunteer, or we can send you out into the community to volunteer. So, I think it's a matter of again, trying to kind of figure out how you want to, like for us, we'll give you a menu. Right, so it's like you could do these things, and some of them don't cost anything. Some of them are just being connected. Some of them are just, I'll make phone calls once a week to a senior who has no contact, with anyone. So it could be so many different kinds of things that if you want to just start with volunteering in one small way, that can, lend itself to becoming more active.
But it goes back to say expectations. What are your expectations for the relationship? I had a conversation with my CEO yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about this presentation coming up. And he cited an example with me when he was talking to a former board member who said, they were going to do a sponsorship for our Walk to Fight Alzheimer's. We don't really care about the day of stuff, the table. We don't need that. What we want, we're interested in the engagement activities, i.e. social media, that are going to drive people to our website. That's what's important to us. So again, it's expectations. Not everybody's the same.
So actually, I'm glad you brought up expectations, and I had a question for the small business owners. We'll start with Joanne. I know when I send out my fundraising letter each year, I say, something along the lines of the biggest thing I can offer you in return is knowing that you've helped. But I also will throw in these little advertising nuggets as well. So Joanne, on that thing, what do you expect in promotion for the bank when you write a check for a sponsorship?
So,
I'm taking notes.
I am too.
wow, that question, yeah. So, we absolutely, again, going back to giving donations and things like that, we do enjoy doing so. What do we expect in return is word of mouth. Really, just giving back referrals to us, letting people know about us. That we're here to help and support, and that's really it, just referrals, nothing more than that.
So more nuts and bolts, Nina or Nancy, can you offer, what if a small business here is ready to make that jump, right, say a $500,000 check, $5,000 check to be a sponsor of one of your events?
Talk to me right now.
Yeah, what is the general marketing opportunities for them when they do that, when they're a sponsor of one of your events or your organization?
Well, I was going to say, at $500,000, we'll have a face-to-face, and we will carve something out that makes sense for both in terms of expectations and what we are able to do. I mean, we have a certain capacity, so we don't want to overstate what our capacity is, depending upon what you're looking for. Certainly, we certainly have events. We have events partnerships, as I said. We have programs partnerships. We certainly benefit from the generosity of many corporations out there who will give us an outright gift. And maybe there'll be a check presentation, that kind of thing. We mention them on our website. We want to recognize the generosity of the business community to us because it's important. As a nonprofit, we don't charge a fee for anything that we do. Donations are important. So, but really at the larger level, it is truly then more of a face-to-face conversation that really is trying to understand what a business may be looking for at that level, and then saying, this is what we can do. And it may or may not work, okay? You have to sort of be willing to be flexible, but be realistic.
Right, so it's important to note that everything's negotiable. That, small
It
businesses
really
shouldn't feel afraid that, no, I'm not gonna get what I need or what I expect.
Did you say 500
I said a lot. Yeah.
Or 500,000?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's
said
ready to write a
$500,000.
$500,000 check this morning,
Yeah.
but, I mean, if you are, come on up.
I mean, listen, as with all businesses and nonprofits, there's your kind of typical, social media, and there's always a press release announcing the new partnership. There's depending on what it is, again, it's a menu. If there's a blog, we always blog. We'll blog about you, or you can blog to us. We spotlight you in our newsletter. That has a 15,000 person reach. Our website, we'll spotlight you on our website. That reaches hundreds of thousands of people. If it's an event, sometimes you could have, a speaking opportunity like you just did this morning. There's so many different ways that you could, you have to kind of figure out what your assets are, and then try to capitalize on that. Again, you have to find out what it is that the business is looking for, because they might not be interested in some of those things. I will say though that there are some restrictions with nonprofits that we can't do. We can't give certain benefits. So like if you said, I'm going to sponsor you, and then you have to give us, a certain, monetary value to it. We can't do certain things by regulation. So just a matter of keeping the dialogue and the conversation open and making sure that what we can do is, appropriate.
So our cameraman this morning, Earl Peterson, works with nonprofits a lot in his business, so he has a question I think would be relevant.
This is for Nina or Nancy. How are you using social media to raise money or to talk about your events, or both?
I could go on for hours on this topic. In fact, I was just telling Jessica, because we just switched our vendors, and so for Alzheimer's New Jersey, in terms of we are active on Twitter, we're active on Facebook, and we're active on Instagram. And between those three platforms, we probably have 12,000 followers. What we have sort of been looking at in the past six to 8 months is that we've been watching our numbers grow, our followers grow, but we weren't seeing the activity that we thought. I think the word is conversion. Okay, this is some of my education in the recent months. The conversion, people sort of supporting the organizational goals. Those organizational goals being maybe registering for programs, because that's one reason that we use social media, to get people to register for the education programs that we do. And since COVID, everything we do virtually now has become so much more important. Getting people to sign up for our Walk to Fight Alzheimer's. We really find that is important for us, because people who take part in that event, which is actually comprised of 5 local events, they are definitely of all ages. It's really a grassroots kind of fundraising kind of thing. Social media should be a good tool for that kind of thing. And then we do also use it in terms of trying to highlight our brand, educate people about who we are, and again, what our story is. 60% of New Jersey residents say they now know someone who has or had Alzheimer's. So it is a disease that impacts us all, and it's a message we try to get out there. So our challenge, though, then again, is the conversion. I find people are more responsive to signing up for programs. I think social media right now for us is good on that aspect. I think we certainly drive people to our website. We look at that, and certainly that's pretty good too. I think we have found that from a fundraising perspective, outright donations, it is less effective for us at that point. Although we certainly have the group out there that's doing their Facebook fundraisers and that kind of thing. And again, our challenge is how do we boost that? So we're sort of trying to figure out social media right now a little bit. Since we have so many followers, we keep looking at it going, how can we get more out of it? It's
Right.
a big list, okay? And our focus was building the list for a long time, and now it's like, how do we convert it more to support the organizational goals? So that's what we're trying to figure out. And I think a lot of groups are trying to do that right now.
Jessica, or Nina, do you want to add?
Sure,
an answer?
ditto. And we use social media for everything, really. Branding, absolutely. Because we're filling the social welfare gap, so we're doing so many different things in the community. For us, it's a lot about sharing because it's social, right? So we're going to share what other people are doing. We're going to share sometimes things that might not necessarily align with our programs that we're running. Like it might be something somebody else is doing. We want to connect people. So I always say we're a community center without walls. So we're connecting people. So we're always sharing lots of different things that are happening, and we feel like the more the merrier. How does that convert into fundraising? That's always a challenge. I think where we have the most success is when we do specific appeals. So it's not just, we're not just saying like, oh, and by the way, you could donate to us, because that's not asking the community to do something specific. But if it's something like, we need X, amount of dollars to do Y, and this is, and here's what it's going to be supporting, and here's why you want to do that, and meet, Lisa, and Lisa does this thing in the community, and she's helping, Ethel, and Ethel is getting help because of this, right? And so that's I think where we've had the most success, and yeah.
Jessica, can you talk a little bit about the effectiveness of a post about Dan or Joanne or any small business sharing their involvement with a nonprofit versus the effectiveness of just saying, hey, I sell insurance and I'm really good at it?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up insurance, because one of the examples I wanted to share with you was we have a client who's an insurance broker in Dumont, and she's so involved in her community, and so it's personally what she cares about, but she also has a lot of nonprofit clients. And so we did a campaign for her last year called Everyday Heroes, because we thought it was important during COVID to kind of bring some positivity, and no one really wanted to hear about insurance necessarily, or just insurance, and we really wanted to vary her content. And we highlighted different people in the community that she had volunteered with, nonprofits that she had supported, either clients or just people in her community. And we did mini interviews with the people in those nonprofits. And those posts did so well because people were looking for that. They were also looking for ways to volunteer. And so I think that actually was good. It was really bringing awareness to those nonprofits. Like, what can I do right now? I'm hoping, I don't know, I don't have any numbers, but I'm hoping that created new relationships. So Susan, the owner, she wanted to really bring those nonprofits into the highlight, into the spotlight. And I think that, again, as a small business, you want to talk about, what you do, but I just think, again, people were really championing her for, thank you for going out into the community. Those posts were so engaging. But again, it's not just for show. It's about that authenticity. People were commenting, Susan, you're always giving back. I've known you for 20 years, and it was a lifelong thing that she was doing. It was just she was starting to talk about it online.
But you can't do that any other way than that, because you've got what you sell. In my case, I sell a product that's given to you by a corporate company and it's sold through me. Okay, I can't tell you what I've done unless you learn about who I am. What are we about? In turn, the nonprofits end up doing the same thing back at you and it becomes a relationship that just gets better and better. And at first you start off thinking, oh, I don't think I want to do that. That's not really why I'm helping them. And you're a little bit embarrassed to tell people what you're doing because you think that people think you're telling them so you can get business. But if you put that aside and you just do who you are, if you feel you want to help these people, then tell people about it. And then it separates you from the flock.
Yeah, and so much of this is about trust and, being, portraying yourself as somebody who's trustworthy and authentic, whether it's on social media, whether it's at the chamber networking event, I mean, it all translates. Nancy, what do you want to add?
No, I was just going to say, I was listening, it reminded me, one of the most successful social media campaigns we had, I think it was 2 years ago. November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, so we were sitting around trying to figure out what can we do to sort of promote that out there, promote awareness. And we came up with a social media campaign, we call it our hashtag, the 68%. And it was based on the fact that we had done a survey with Fairleigh Dickinson, with their Fairleigh Dickinson's Public Mind, where people were asked, again, what's the impact of Alzheimer's, on your life? And they said 68% of people who responded said that they either knew someone who had the disease or had it, at this point in time. So we said, let's create the hashtag, the 68%. Let's put it out on social media and say, this is the 68%. If you're one of the 68%, share your story. I cannot tell you how many stories we got from people who told us how Alzheimer's had impacted their lives. Again, husbands talking about their wife not being able to function, kids talking about their parents, grandkids talking about their grandparents. They sent us their stories, they sent us pictures. We had an overwhelming response, and so much so that we actually created a page on our website with all the different stories, so you can click on them and you can see see what they're about. So it created a sense of community, which I think is what social media is all about as well. But it really made, when you talk about impact is such an intangible concept, but it really made it more tangible. You really, when you press one of these stories and you see what people have to say, you say, it's gut-wrenching, and you say, now I get it, kind of stuff. So we found, and we continue to use that campaign now. People continue to submit stories because they want to be heard.
So we're running a little short on time, but Joanne, I did want to go back to this. You had mentioned earlier about word of mouth, and social media is now our modern day equivalent of word of mouth. So what effective social media campaigns has the bank used to promote some of its charitable work?
Absolutely. So we do also promote through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn about some of the things that we've done with our nonprofit organizations. But most importantly, I think it's just going back to the word of mouth. I know social media is so important, but I just think going back to word of mouth in the community, just being there and being a support, other people talk about us too. And I think that's really what's most effective in my opinion. Sure, social media is great, and I absolutely agree we need it, but I just think, from a community standpoint, just having that connection, it's so important. And I also just wanted to add one thing, going back to, how we support businesses and nonprofits. Something as simple as walking down the street, from my location and just visiting small businesses, just stopping in to say hello, how are you doing? That means so much to people, so I think that's also important with keeping the lines of communication open.
It goes back to that trust.
Exactly, building trust.
So we are running short on time, but I did want to let the audience ask some questions. If you're a small business owner and you haven't gotten involved in charitable giving or partnerships yet, and you want to know how to start or how to promote, or if you're doing something already and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of it, if there's any questions from the audience at this point, that'd be time for this. Joe?
We have a question that came in from one of our virtual attendees. It's one of our local Chamber of Commerce partners, and they say, I represent a local Chamber of Commerce and would like to explore partnerships with several specific local nonprofits. Our chamber is made up of 80% small mom and pop businesses. So how would you recommend we position ourselves as a partner?
Call me. Call. That's what it is. It's really about, it's showing up, right? It really touches kind of upon everything that we were saying. Showing up, calling, listening, yeah.
I think I might add to that, having some experience in Chamber of Commerce is, poll your members and, ask your members what issues and causes are important to them. So, your members are getting back that feeling that they're involved and that you're representing their values as well.
And of course, include the nonprofits in your chamber and support them.
Yeah, I mean, we belong to like 5 or 6 different chambers, and we're always there, right?
Yeah.
We have, I think too, there has to be kind of like a synergy between the nonprofit and the small business. You can't be waiting for each other to call.
Right.
So you have to
engage.
take initiative.
And the nonprofits have to find business owners who want to engage back.
Right.
It's
You
a
can't-
discovery process.
Yeah, you
That's
can't
really
just
what it
throw
is.
money.
Absolutely.
It's not going to help. They need to want to help you.
Right.
Oh yeah, and I never finished that story with that bank that we ended up partnering with them.
There you go.
And in fact, we had given them a menu, and they chose something from the menu, and then we did that thing. It was collecting food for children who are on free and reduced lunch who don't get food over the summer. So they did that, and then when our next we had a necessities drive. That covers things that are not covered by SNAP, which is food stamps. And I was like, you know what? It wasn't on the menu, but let's do that too. We called them and they were so excited. So it's really that it comes full circle.
I mean, these drives, whether it be food or school supplies, they're happening all the time, and it's a great, just to be like you said, a collection point.
Right.
It brings eyeballs to your business. I'm not saying you're going to do a sales pitch to everyone who drops off a can of food, but it's a set of eyeballs who now knows where you're located. I mean, it's a great low-cost way to get involved.
Yep. And you can't go wrong. That whole sleep at night factor is real. You've helped people. There's nothing wrong with helping people on a daily basis. It's fine.
Any other questions from the audience, or anyone want to share an experience that they've had with a nonprofit as a small business owner? Joe, go ahead.
I just wanted to share a couple of no-cost resources. It seems very appropriate here. First of all, I was glad to see the interest in values in business. That's part of what is important to me, and I'm passionate about it. So one of the things I'm involved in is a foundation that establishes values tables. And I've already spoken to Dan about this, and Nina. We might be launching something either or both. Maybe it'll be another joint project, or even independent of the committees. Anyone who's interested in exploring their values and taking a deeper dive on it. There's actually a process that we go through, and it's like a journey of values. And part of that journey comes to, all right, what are you passionate about? What do you want to see changed in your community? That might be a tool for those who are still trying to kind of figure out. A second free resource that I have is part of that same foundation. We have a particular outreach to youth in October, and we've talked about it, Jeff. I look forward to having coffee with you, and hopefully we'll get something going with the Little League in October. It's called the Global Youth Initiative. So at no cost to the youth organization, we'll come in and do material that's based on leadership and character for young people. So if you're interested in either of those, just hand me your card and I'll contact you and we can get that going.
Right,
I'm Steve Paul, by the way.
We have one more question from virtual.
All right.
attendee. As a nonprofit, is there a way that we can market to small businesses that we are interested in being partners or sponsors? We can't call everyone, so how can we identify companies who would be interested?
Jessica, you want to start with that, and then we'll open up the rest?
Do a social media post and figure out that list of people you want to get in contact with them. Tag them on your photo, tag them in the caption, send them a DM. Start a relationship. That's how it works. It's not the easy answer. It's not the no-brainer answer because it still takes effort. But building any relationship is going to take effort. But definitely getting it out there on your social media. Again, coming to networking meetings, but then talking about it afterwards. I went to the Meadowlands Chamber today, and I heard Nina and Nancy and Joanna and Jessica and Dan talk, and then you tag our businesses and our nonprofits, and then we can share it. And, you know, I'm looking for people to partner with. We're looking for businesses out there that want to do good. You know, it's talking about it. It's opening that line of communication. But then it's about, if you see someone liking your posts and maybe commenting, oh, this is great, give those people a call. That's kind of your warm lead, you know? It's like someone who's engaging with you on social media, then you pick up the phone or you DM them and say, let's have a conversation. But that's not necessarily the easy way, but it's a way to get, it's one of the channels that you're using.
Yeah,
to
Nina,
get
you
out
guys
there.
work with many nonprofits as a nonprofit, so what's your advice to
Yeah,
that
I would
question?
say it's more on the development side and the stewardship side of things. I mean, yes, what you're saying is absolutely true. As you build your exposure, you also build your collaborations. And I think also, you know, kind of try to find that low-hanging fruit where you can look to see who's donating to your organization and how are they connected in the business world, and then stewarding them, going out for coffee, seeing if there's interest. They're clearly philanthropically minded because they're connected with your organization. So, you know, finding those people who are already your warm leads.
Like,
you know,
look at your list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do some analysis of your list. If you're running a development program, you should be looking at the list all the time and sort of checking it out.
Joanne, do you have like a story of like a unique situation where a nonprofit approached you and actually got your ear? And
I do actually. So, you know, this person has a child who's on the spectrum and heard about Blue Foundry. Well, it was Boiling Springs at the time. They're a friend and contacted me. Through, you know, conversations, we were able to help this nonprofit, again, through monetarily and also with events, you know, helping host events and things like that. She is very thankful and grateful for the partnership, and again, this came by, you know, just word of mouth. So I thought that was really nice because people do value the relationship that they've built, knowing that the bank is there to support them.
I would say also, whatever small businesses are already helping this charity, start with them as well, because chances are, just like we've made this panel, they already have a common ground with a lot of other businesses.
Yeah.
In this chamber alone, I tend to gravitate towards the people who have something in common with me the most when it comes to forming an event. So chances are, one small business that's helping you, you might meet 10 that you'll have by the next year.
yeah, I mean, I can't tell you from my own nonprofit experience how much just being in attendance at networking events and telling your story. Yeah, you're not going to walk up to somebody and tell your story and you're going to get a donation from every single person, but eventually it pays off, you know, so get out there. I mean, that's really the best advice I would have for that question.
That goes for the business too.
Absolutely.
If you want to make the relationship, you got to get out there and make it real.
So, I mean, we are over our time, but, I mean, certainly you guys can hang around and network for a little bit here at the MCHQ. I'm sure Joe and Mike would tell you guys the space is always open for members to come and make use of. So start this morning if you'd like by, you know, sticking around having some conversations. Our panel will be here if you want to ask them some specific situational questions about your own business. Again, thank you so much for coming on behalf of myself and Denise Morelli, my co-chair, and Dan and Frankie, co-chairs of the Small Business Council. We really, our best events are when we partner together with this committee and double up our audience and our message. So thank you guys for coming this morning. Thank you everyone who's watching at home or at the office. I really appreciate it. We have another event coming up next month on hybrid events and how to pull that off and how to know when to do it and not to do it for the nonprofit thing. Dan, did you want to, anything coming up on the Small Business Council side?
Anybody who came to our local expedition last time, we took a hike through the park over here and then we had lunch. Our next one's going to be over Peck Park. You're going to learn a history of how the park came about, and the Fort Group's going to host a lunch right there at their place, right next to the trail. So that's going to be happening in late October. Look for any advertisements that we're going to put out coming soon, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, check the chamber calendar. I don't remember the date of our event off the top of my head, but check the chamber calendar. Check it always and often. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Again, thank you for coming and stick around, have some conversations.